we'll be happy about that. But we are looking at the story of David today. Now, David in this scene, if you were to read the beginning of chapter 17, he's just a normal kid, right? A young man, like we've all been, if you're a man, if you're not, like a young woman. He had really not a whole lot going for him. He had 3 older brothers that were off fighting a war or were sitting there waiting for a war to begin. Nobody wanted to fight. And he was sitting back watching his family sheep. He was a shepherd, a farmer. Watched his sheep just eat and protected them. As we'll find out, he did a little bit more than just protect them. He fought for them. And so David is sitting at home with his dad, Jesse, and they're just chilling. His brothers are off at war, waiting for something to happen, but the Philistines, the people that they were fighting against, didn't want to fight. The traditional way, if you will, army against army. They wanted to send one of their chosen men to fight. Anybody know his name? Anybody? Goliath. Thank you. This is like going back to kids ministry. Everybody's like, not going to say anything because I don't want to be that dummy that says the wrong name. Goliath, right? This massive mammoth of a man, 9 feet, 4 inches, some crazy height, right? And not only was he tall, he was built. He was one of the old giants of the old that were not quite all the way destroyed. And so here we come into verse 32, where David comes up on the scene. He's bringing food to his brothers and checking up on them. Because his dad said, go, check up on your brothers, see how they're doing. I'm a little worried about them. Are they still alive? We haven't got word back from the battlefront. And so David brings food to his brothers, and he comes across them sitting, doing nothing. And there's this massive giant that's defying the one true God, the God of Israel. And David doesn't think too highly of it. So here's this young little shepherd boy, the youngest of young, nothing special about him, okay? So I'm trying to set it up here. He's no better than anybody else, right? Sitting in a chair across the world today, listening to a message. He's just a boy. But he had extreme faith in that God by the name of Yahweh. So verse 32, I think we've set it up well enough. I probably could have just read it for how long I took there. David said to Saul, now Saul is the king of Israel, right? First king. Don't let anyone be discouraged by him, that is Goliath. What are you talking about, David? You're just a boy. Why? Of course we're discouraged. He wants to kill us all. If he wins, then we're destroyed. We become slaves of Philistines. If we win, well, then they get to become our slaves, but that's not going to happen. We don't have anybody who can fight this guy. So don't let anyone be discouraged by him, right? Your servant will go out and fight this Philistine. So if you're the king, before we go any further, you're the king of this fairly small group of people at this point in history. And a young shepherd boy, so just not belittling anybody here, but a teenage gamer walks up to you and says, I'm going to go fight against one of the most powerful people in all the world, right? Conor McGregor. Well, he's hurt now, so that wouldn't work. Think of some massive fighter, right? Muhammad Ali, somebody that was a great fighter. This little gamer twerp is going to go and fight him. Wow, I'm really encouraged by this, right? So think of the biggest nerd you can think of. I was that nerd, so you can think of me if you want. And he's going to go out and he's going to pick a fight. This is great. And so Saul replied, you can't go and fight this Philistine. You're just a youth, and he's been a warrior since he was young. David answered Saul, your servant has been tending his father's sheep. Okay, whoop-de-doo. Good for you. Now, here gets to be the good part. Whenever a lion or bear came and carried away off a lamb from the flock, I went after it, struck it down, and rescued the lamb from its mouth. Say, what? Okay, not only now are you a young nerd, but you're also a little cuckoo, right? Like, I don't believe a single thing you're saying right now, young man. You went up to a lion and took a lamb out of its mouth. Sounds AI to me, right? I was watching a video yesterday of a moose coming running up and hitting a bear that had its kid in its mouth. And immediately, what did my kids say? AI. Dad, that's AI. I'm like, wow, you are so true. Because I love watching these trail cams of the Yukon Territory. They have trail cams, and you can see all these animals. And of course, what does Facebook know? Facebook knows that I'm into that. And so what does it show me? AI pictures of moose and bears, of course. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. Tell you, kids. So, sounds AI to me, David. You're crazy. So David goes on to say, your servant has killed lions and bears. This uncircumcised Philistine, maybe he's circumcised. I don't know, but I think he's more or less slamming him. Will be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God. Then David said, the Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of the Philistine. And so Saul is like, I'm not going to convince this guy, right? Go and may the Lord be with you. So here we have a man, a young man, a little twerp in the eyes of this giant. I don't know how you can relate to this story, but I can relate to this story. I am a nobody. We're all nobodies in the grand scheme of the world, right? Like, we're not a president. We're not a great army official. We're just normal people. But God, right? God looks down on you and he says, you're my son, you are my daughter, and I have called you mine. I have something for you to do. Now, what it is for you, what it is for me, it may look different, right? But in the end, he has called you to do something. For David, he called him to go and fight a giant. Maybe you are facing a giant right now, but your giant isn't necessarily a person. It might be yourself. It might be your past. It might be addictions. It might be, you can name a lot of things, right? We all have our giant that we're facing. And David had a choice here. He knew what he was called to do. The moment he heard Goliath defying his God, he said, ain't going to happen on my watch. Who's going to rise up? Who's going to take on this Goliath? We're called to defeat these Philistines, and nobody is willing to do it. I will do it. If God has delivered a lion through my hands, if God has delivered a bear through my hands, surely this giant, who is nothing compared to a bear or lion, by the way, is nothing. I'll fight. I'll fight. Nothing was going to stop him. What's stopping you from attacking that Goliath, that giant in your life? What mental battle? What doubt? What fear? What past hurts, hang-ups, family issues? What is it? Don't give up. You think about some of these great people of days gone by, right? Think of Martin Luther King Jr., right? He was a man just like us. He was a person just like you and I. What if he would have given up the moment people said, sit down, you're a black man. You don't have any say in our culture, in our day today. Sit down. What would he have done if he would have sat down? Who knows what history would have been? But he didn't. What if Thomas Edison, one of the greatest inventors of all time, and we know that he had a lot of failed inventions or attempts to invent, what if he stopped and gave up? What if Jesus, on that night in the Garden of Gethsemane, cried out to the Father and said, Father, I can't do it, which he did, of course, right? I don't want to do this. I don't want to go through this pain and the torture, the rejection, all of the things that I'm going to go through to deliver these people. What if he said, I'm not going to follow through? History is filled with people just like you, just like me, who had their own battles that they're facing, and they're real, and they're hard. Right? You don't have to be facing a giant that's 9 feet tall that you can point at and say, that's my giant. It can be in your head, and those giants are just as hard to defeat. You have a call on your life. Right? God has called you to life in abundance, life overflowing with joy, with peace, the fruits of the Spirit, with the gifts of the Spirit. He's called you to that. But you have to stay the course. Here's what Paul says. One of the guys that, right, just like us, right, a nobody who went through a lot of hardships, right, shipwrecks, torture, beatings, all of it. He says in 1 Corinthians 10:13, no test or temptation that comes your way is beyond the course of what others have had to face. All you need to remember is that God will never let you down. Now, the enemy might say, where's God? Why is he allowing this? Why don't you have what you need to accomplish this? That's the enemy. God promises he will never let you down. He'll never let you be pushed past your limit. He'll always be there to help you come through it. We all have our giants. Many of you are facing them right now, today. I have my giants, right? I could list a long list of my giants right now, and you'd be like, wow, that's nothing like mine. But they're just as real as yours, and yours are just as real as mine, and ours are just as real as Jesus's, or as Martin Luther King Jr.'s, or as David's. To us, they are insurmountable and impossible to fight. But the key word is on our own. Don't lose heart. Remember what David said. God has delivered. And if he has delivered me from the hands of the paws of the lion and the bear, he will deliver me. God will deliver me from the hands of this giant that seems insurmountable. So don't lose heart. Second, it's time to block out the noises around us. We all have noises, right? We have people telling us what they think is best. And maybe even the enemy himself is trying to convince you in your head and your heart, this is what I need to do. I need to stop. I need to back down. I'm going to break. I can't go anymore. People will tell you how to fight the battle. People will tell you the route to take. But listen to what David does in our story. Verse 38. Then Saul had his own military clothes put on David. So here we go. Saul has his thoughts. This is how you're going to fight the giant. I can't stop you. I can't convince you. You're going to go out and do it. So how about I help you and give you some tools to fight? This is how you do it. The world will tell you. Experts. There's thousands of experts, right? Just Google, AI, whatever. You'll be told what to do, what to believe, how to react. So here was David's AI, King Saul. He was the expert. He put a bronze helmet on David's head and had him put on armor. David strapped his sword on over the military clothes and tried to walk. But he was not used to them. I can't walk in these, David said to Saul. I'm not used to them. So David had a decision to make. Am I going to put this protection on, use the sword that is obviously what it takes to defeat a giant? Or am I going to go the way God has told me? Am I going to listen to the experts? Am I going to listen to God? So, of course, David took them off. Instead, he took his staff in his hand, his little crook, getting his sheep, and chose 5 smooth stones from the Wadi, that is the little river, and put them in his pouch, in his shepherd's bag. Then, with his sling in his hand, he approached the Philistine. The Philistine came closer and closer to David with a shield bearer in front of him. Probably a shield bearer, probably bigger than David himself, right? David couldn't see over him. He said to David, listen to this, am I a dog that you should come against me with sticks? Then he cursed David by his gods. Come here, the Philistine called to David, and I'll give your flesh to the birds of the sky and the wild beasts. What do you think the enemy was telling David at this time in his heart and his mind? Get out! Right? We've heard of the fight or flight, right? Or freeze. Everything was going sky high inside of David at this point, saying, you gotta run, buddy. What are you going to do with 5 little tiny pebbles in this little sling? That's not going to take down a man that's giant. And of course, you have the Philistine himself cursing him, calling him loser, weakling. You ain't got nothing. Get out of here. But yet David said to the Philistine, he wasn't backing down. He wasn't going to listen to the noise of what the enemy was telling him, either inside of him, the lies of the devil, or the lies from the Philistine, right? He wasn't going to listen. So what does he do? You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord of armies, the God of the ranks of Israel. You have defied him. He didn't take that personally. He took that to God personally, right? You're not coming against me here, boy. You're coming against God. Sit down. Right? Like, hello. Today, the Lord will hand you over to me. Today, I'll strike you down and remove your head and give the corpse of the Philistine camp to the birds of the sky and the wild creatures of the earth. What does this guy think? He's not only going to take down Goliath, he's going to take on a whole stinking army. Whew. Then all the world will know that Israel has a God, and this whole assembly will know that it is not by sword or by spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's. He will hand you over to us. You're going to have people constantly telling you what to do. You will have the experts saying, don't do this. You will have the own enemy inside of your head telling you you're not good enough. Maybe it'll be your parents from when you were a kid, and their voices will be in the back of your head telling you all those same things over and over that you always heard. You're not good enough. You don't have what it takes. Sit down. Don't give in to those lies. Don't believe it. If God has called you, which I know he has. You've given your life to Jesus, called him your Savior, you have what it takes. Go forward. Listen to some of the scriptures that we read from the Bible, Romans 8:31. If I am for you, who can be against you? Or Isaiah 54:17. No weapon turned against you will succeed. Or Hebrews 13:5. I will never fail you. I will never abandon you. He will be with you every step of the way. He will. There's a perfect example of this in the Bible, and we're just about ready to land this plane for you today. This is, of course, of Peter. There's this big storm, right? The disciples are going across the sea to the other side to go where Jesus is. So they get in this boat. They don't know where Jesus went off to. He's always doing these things where he's running off and he's going and spending time with people, and he's going and spending time in the quiet so he can refuel his soul and get connected to the Father. And so here's the disciples in this little tiny boat, and a storm comes up. They're scared. And then Jesus shows up, and they have no idea who it is. And as he gets closer, like, whoa, it's Jesus. So Jesus looks. And of course, Peter being Peter, right? He's the excited one who's always willing to give anything a try. He sees Jesus, and Jesus calls him out. And what does Peter do? Remember the story? He gets out of the boat, right? And he walks to Jesus, and he's walking on water. It's crazy. He's doing the impossible. His giant is trust. Is getting out of that boat and walking. And he does it. Because with God, if he calls you and he equips you and he gives you what you need, you'll be exactly where you need to be. And you can follow. But what happened? If you know the story, of course, Peter takes his eyes off of Jesus. He gets distracted by the noise around him. He gets more trusting in the lightning and the thunder and the rain coming down, the wind and the waves. And he doubts. And of course, he sinks. The moment we get our eyes off of God, we get our eyes on the noise of what others are telling us. Now, I do want to put a caveat on here. If you surround yourself with good people, listen to them, right? But don't listen to them above what God tells you. Tell them. Be open to them. This is what God is telling me, and this is what you're telling me. We need to have good conversation with people around us, especially your family, right? They know you best. Listen to them. But if God still tells you, and you know for sure, then we need to trust God. Peter got his eyes off God. He wasn't looking at the disciples and asking them, hey, what do you think, boys? Am I being out of my mind here? He doesn't ask for wisdom from his friends who know him best. He doesn't ask Jesus even. He just looks around and he immediately loses his focus. It's his eyes off Jesus. But of course, Jesus picks him up and saves him and brings him to the boat. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Spend time with him. Open up his word. Pray to him. Surround yourself with good people. You need him. And of course, the story isn't over. We got a good glimpse, but let's land this plane and hear the end of the story. When the Philistine started forward to attack him, David ran quickly to the battle line to meet the Philistine. David put his hand in his bag, took out a stone, slung it, and hit the Philistine on his forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down to the ground. David defeated the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Then David overpowered the Philistine and killed him without having a sword. He stood over him. He grabbed the Philistine's sword, pulled it from his sheath, and used it to kill him. Then he cut off his head. When the Philistines saw their hero was dead, they fled. And their demise came. Regardless of what others say or what circumstance show, you have what it takes. Don't lose heart. Don't lose focus. God's got you. He cares about you. We hear this all over in the Gospels where Jesus says, I care about you. I care about you more than anything else. I'm willing to go to the cross, even if it was just for you. You matter to him. Trust him. What he calls you to, he will give you the ability to follow through. Father, I pray for every person listening today. God, you see them. You see the giants they are facing right now. The burdens, the cares, concerns, the fears of the past, the things that haunt them. Father, you have called them to abundant life. John 10:10 tells us that. The thief kills, though. He's out there prowling around trying to take all that you've given us, the joy, the peace. And so, Father, I pray that they would get their eyes on you, because that is where the abundant life is found. Don't listen to the things around you. Oh, Father, give us that strength to focus on you. Peace. Peace with your people now, in Jesus' name.